Love in Cappadocia. Elif had spent her entire life in the soft, sun-baked valleys of Cappadocia, Turkey. Her fingers knew the feel of clay before they knew the touch of a pen, and the pottery wheel had been her companion since childhood. The quiet mornings in her studio were filled with the smell of wet clay and the rhythmic hum of the wheel turning beneath her hands. She loved the solitude, the way each creation felt like an extension of herself. But in recent years, tourism had changed the pace of her life. Travelers flocked to the region, drawn by the fairy chimneys, hot air balloons, and the promise of an authentic experience. Some brought curiosity, others brought impatience. Elif had learned to welcome the former and gently ignore the latter. One crisp morning, while preparing a demonstration for tourists, she noticed a group arriving that seemed particularly interested. Among them was Marco, a young Italian traveler with expressive eyes and a wide smile, whose fascination with her pottery was immediate. He watched her every movement intently, asking questions in a hesitant mix of English and Italian. Elif's Turkish was precise, musical, but their attempts to communicate were halting and punctuated with laughter over misunderstandings. She was amused by his determination, and he was enchanted by her patience and grace. They exchanged simple gestures, pointing to clay, miming the spinning of the wheel, and laughing when the shapes emerged unpredictably from Marco's clumsy hands. As the day passed, Marco expressed interest in learning more about the art of pottery. Elif agreed to give him a short lesson, explaining techniques slowly, emphasizing the tactile and emotional connection to the clay. Marco, although inexperienced, listened attentively, his hands moving carefully over the clay under her guidance. The effort to understand each other transcended words. Their gestures, laughter, and shared concentration became a language of its own. By the end of the day, a small vase sat on the edge of the wheel flawed, but filled with their combined effort. Both beamed at it, proud of the work and, more importantly, of the connection they had begun to build. Over the next few days, Marco returned to Elif's workshop, eager to practice and learn. Each session was filled with clumsy but heartfelt attempts to communicate. He tried pronouncing Turkish words, which made Elif laugh softly. She attempted Italian phrases she had picked up from him, often resulting in amusing mispronunciations. Their shared struggle with language created an intimacy that was tender and spontaneous. Beyond the studio, Marco invited Elif to explore Cappadocia together. They watched the sunrise over the valleys, a flotilla of hot air balloons rising like colored lanterns into the sky, painting the landscape with shifting shadows and light. Elif explained the formations, the history of the region, and the legends associated with each fairy chimney. Marco absorbed everything with awe, taking countless photos, yet none captured the depth of the moment, the laughter, the shy glances, and the warmth that grew between them. One afternoon, Marco suggested taking a balloon ride at dawn, a quintessential Cappadocian experience. As they ascended above the valleys, the world below transformed into a mosaic of earth tones, caves, and winding paths. The silence above the earth, interrupted only by the occasional blast of the balloon burner, gave them both a sense of suspended time. Marco reached out, holding Elif's hand briefly, an act of simple human connection. She smiled, her eyes sparkling with trust and amusement. The aerial perspective gave them a shared wonder, a memory they could only experience together. Words were minimal, yet the depth of feeling was unmistakable. Their days became a rhythm. Mornings in the studio, afternoons exploring valleys, underground cities, and ancient churches carved into rock. They sampled local cuisine together, sharing gizlim, kebabs, and sweet baklava, laughing at their attempts to order in each other's language. Marco's Italian accent mingled with Elif's Turkish phrases, creating a unique hybrid tongue that carried warmth and intimacy. Each evening, they reflected on the day, often sitting outside her studio, watching the sun set behind the fairy chimneys, the sky painted in hues of orange and pink. Silence was comfortable, broken only by the soft clinking of ceramic pieces being set aside for drying. However, their growing closeness was not without challenges. Marco's family, distant and protective, questioned the practicality of his budding romance with someone living in a small Turkish town. Elif's parents, equally wary, were concerned about cultural differences and the possibility of heartbreak. Language barriers exacerbated misunderstandings, turning minor disagreements into frustrating moments. One evening, a miscommunication about a planned trip to a remote village led to tension. Marco misheard instructions in Turkish, and Elif, frustrated with herself for not explaining better, felt a pang of worry. They sat quietly, the air tense, until Marco finally laughed softly and gestured toward the clay, signaling a return to shared creativity. They spent hours shaping a large joint sculpture, a symbolic act of reconciliation and understanding. By the time their hands were coated with dried clay and their creation stood upright, their laughter had returned, and any lingering frustration melted away. As the weeks turned into months, Marco became increasingly committed to learning Turkish, attending lessons in the nearby town and practicing with Elif every day. He began to read simple books, write short notes, and converse with locals more confidently. Elif, inspired by his dedication, started learning Italian, repeating words and phrases with him, slowly gaining fluency. Their combined efforts transformed their communication from gestures and broken sentences into a full dialogue, rich with humor, emotion, and nuance. They discovered that language learning, once a challenge, became a delightful adventure, a way to deepen their bond and share their worlds with each other. Together, they decided to combine their passions into a joint venture, a small pottery workshop and gallery where both locals and tourists could create, learn, and appreciate ceramics. The process required careful planning, securing permits, organizing materials, and designing the space to reflect both Turkish traditions and the flair of Italian artistry. They spent long days shaping the vision of their workshop, their ideas blending as naturally as their languages. The project became a physical manifestation of their relationship, a shared space, a meeting of cultures, and a celebration of mutual respect and creativity. Opening day arrived, and the workshop was filled with a mixture of locals and visitors. People marveled at the harmonious blend of styles in the displayed ceramics, while Marco and Elif guided participants through hands-on lessons. They smiled as children molded clay, couples created vases together, and tourists marveled at the intricate designs inspired by Cappadocian landscapes. Every detail, from the arrangement of shelves to the sense of freshly cut clay and wet earth, reflected their combined efforts and vision. The workshop was more than a business, it was a community hub, a bridge between cultures and a testament to the power of shared creativity. Their collaboration extended beyond the workshop. Marco and Elif organized cultural exchange events, where Italian music and Turkish instruments merged, creating unique performances that attracted travelers and locals alike. They invited chefs to demonstrate traditional recipes and artists to display paintings and photography inspired by the region. These events strengthened connections within the community and brought recognition to Cappadocia as a place where culture, art, and love intertwined. Through their partnership, Marco gained a profound appreciation for Turkish traditions, the subtleties of Cappadocia's history, and the warmth of its people. Elif, in turn, discovered new perspectives, artistic techniques, and a sense of global connection through Marco's background and experiences. Their love had transformed from a chance encounter into a deep, lasting bond, strengthened by effort, understanding, and shared goals. One quiet evening, as the sun dipped behind the rock formations, they stood outside the workshop, holding hands and watching tourists depart after a day of creation and learning. Elif leaned her head against Marco's shoulder and whispered in perfectly accented Italian, "We made this together." Marco smiled, responding in Turkish, "Together." Always, the sentiment encapsulated their journey, a meeting of hearts and cultures, a shared dedication to art, and the triumph of connection over obstacles. In the following months, their workshop thrived. Word spread about the unique experience of learning ceramics from an authentic, Plisica, Turkish artisan guided by a passionate international partner. The couple's love story became part of the narrative of the workshop, inspiring other travelers to pursue cultural experiences and genuine human connection. They continued learning each other's languages, discovering new techniques, and hosting special classes that highlighted the integration of Italian and Turkish art. Through every challenge and triumph, Marco and Elif proved that love and creativity could overcome distance, language barriers, and cultural differences. Their relationship exemplified how patience, communication, and shared passion could transform initial curiosity into a lifelong partnership. Beyond their personal bond, they contributed to the cultural and economic vitality of Cappadocia, preserving traditions while fostering innovation. Even years later, visitors to their workshop could feel the legacy of that first meeting, the laughter over clumsy clay attempts, the awe of the balloon flights at sunrise, and the quiet moments of understanding built through gestures, words, and music. Each piece of pottery carried with it the story of two people who dared to bridge worlds, not only for themselves, but for everyone willing to join in the experience. Marco and Elif's love had become inseparable from the landscape, the art, and the culture of Cappadocia, a living testament to the transformative power of connection, patience, and shared passion. Their journey from curiosity to deep affection, from separate worlds to shared vision, illustrated a universal truth. Love thrives where people are willing to learn, adapt, and create together. As they continued shaping clay, guiding visitors, and learning new languages, Marco and Elif knew that their hearts had found a home. a place as enduring and beautiful as the Cappadocian valleys themselves.